Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of Scott's Selections here on Monday, May 27th. Sorry we did not have a video last night, but I ended up traveling to Vegas, and I'm finally in my room here at the resort. So I now have some time to make a video, and I know that we have missed some of the baseball games today as it's Memorial Day, so there has been a decent amount of days in the early afternoon. There's still one huge game that people want to talk about, and that obviously is Game 1 of the Stanley Cup. So what I'm going to do is I will be talking about that game, giving my leans, but I will be giving leans on the other 4 baseball games that will be taking place later today. With that being said, time to just dive right in. Also, a reminder, if any of you have any questions or anything you want to ask about the betting card itself, just let me know, and I'll gladly address them as soon as possible. Also, if the sound is pretty solid and I'm in a random hotel room, hopefully the sound is still bearable, and hopefully there's not any, awkward sounds going on. But yeah, it's all good, Sam. I'll try to provide you with some good content, and hopefully we'll try to cash together. But we'll start out talking about the Stanley Cup Game 1 between the Boston Bruins and the St. Louis Blues. Total opened up at 5.5, down to 5 actually in most spots, with juice towards the over. Currently, the highest juice available is a minus 130 at 5 dimes, but it's mostly around minus 125. And Boston's been bet down from minus 165 as a favorite to roughly minus 150. Now, in terms of this game, something that I have noticed in the past is that teams off a long layoff have not done well so far in the playoffs. For example, Columbus ended up losing Game 1 after sweeping the Lightning. The Islanders lost Game 1 against Carolina after having about a week off. And Carolina also lost Game 1 to Boston after sweeping the previous series. So sweeps don't typically lead to a lot of Game 1 success. So I think there is some value on the Blues here. Am I going to personally take the Blues? No. I think this game will be very close. I expect it to be a nail-biter. I do think Boston's going to win the Stanley Cup. I think Boston will win this game, but I would not be surprised to see St. Louis get up to a little bit of an early lead. They will try to use their defense and what got them to the championship in the first place to the promised land, and I expect betting to play pretty well. Tuukka Rask has been fantastic, though, so I'm not surprised that this total is currently at 5. But for me, I would lean to the Blues. If you want a little bit of safety, I'd recommend taking Blues plus a half in the first 60 minutes. Am I personally going to bet this, though? No. I personally don't see much edge in any of the type of games itself for hockey, but that's where I'd lean, and I'd also lean to the over 5. I think this game will end up at 3-2, give or take, but you also have an empty netter draw, and you also have an overtime draw for a push. I don't think there's really any value in taking an under 5 in hockey, so I'd personally lean to the over 5 there, and the Blues plus a half in regulation. Now, moving on, just a quick, by the way, before we actually get into that, quick recap on what happened in our last time here is that we ended up we split actually with our tennis play and our baseball play. We did win the baseball play with the Arizona Diamondbacks against the San Francisco Giants as they ended up sweeping at a minus 114 on a good price. We did lose in tennis, though, as Humbert was unable to win that tough third set tiebreaker as he lost 12-10. And he blew 3 set points, which would have given him a 2-1 set lead. Ended up losing in 4, not the way you like to see it. So we ended up losing 0.02 units in the last day that we had betting. But, we'll look to bounce back here. And according to the baseball card here, you have a couple of games starting at 7:10 Eastern Time. First game between the Reds and the Pirates with Keller versus Gray. Rays are minus 150 favorite, totals at 9. In terms of this game, I'd have to lean to the Pirates here. Reds have played decently lately, but at the same point, Sonny Gray should never be a minus 150. And Keller is a relative unknown, but at the same point, I simply just don't think that the Reds should be this big of a favorite unless Castillo is on the mound, and I simply just don't trust Gray in the spot. I'd also lean to the over 9 as it's going to be in Great American Ballpark, so there should be more runs based on the small dimensions of the field itself. But for me, I'm personally going to lean to the Pirates because I think there is value there, since Gray is definitely overvalued here at home. And moving on in that one, I would look to the next game between the Brewers and the Twins. Both teams are swinging the bats pretty well. You have Gonzalez versus Pineda. Total's been bet down from 10 to 9.5. And the Brewers originally opened up as dogs are now currently favorites, roughly minus 112. I will lean to the over in this game at 9.5. In terms of the sides, I'm not going to touch it. I like Milwaukee. Yelich hit a home run the other day. It looked pretty good, but the Twins have been rolling. Their offense looks great, and they swept the White Sox over the weekend. In terms of this game, there's no way that I'm going to bet against the Twins, but I also don't like Pineda, so I would take the over. I think that game will have at least 5 runs on each side for both teams. So with that being said, quick question here. How am I enjoying my time in Vegas? so far so good. Been here about a day, give or take, and just finally checked into my room. I ended up getting an upgrade because I ended up using the $20 sandwich trick. If you don't know what that is, I'd recommend looking that up. But either or, so far so good. And it's nice to be back in Vegas for the Stanley Cup tonight, as well as the NBA Finals, which are starting in the span of the next couple of days. Moving on, you have the Mets versus the Dodgers. Dodgers are currently at minus 166, give or take. Kershaw versus DeGrom, great pitching matchup. Total is at 7, bet down to 6.5 in a couple spots with heavy juice to the over. In terms of this game, I lean to the Dodgers. DeGrom's defending Cy Young winner, hasn't been great this year. Plus, the Mets haven't looked great. They did end up winning against the Tigers. Well, they won 2 out of 3 in that series, but the Tigers aren't great. Mets haven't looked great. DeGrom's been okay. Their bullpen's terrible, and I definitely like Kershaw on the spot. And I will lean to Kershaw on the money line, and I'd also lean to the Mets team total under. Moving on, the final game, you have the Rangers and the Mariners with Malone versus Lynn. Lean to the over 9.5 here. Total start at 9, up to 9.5. Both these pitchers aren't great. Lynn's been okay in the last couple starts with Malone. Crafty, old lefty, but at the same point, he doesn't have very much dynamic. He doesn't have a lot of dynamic stuff, so I expect him to get hit. I think Lynn will get hit, as it's the third time that he's going to be facing the Mariners this season, and I think that this game will go over the total due to a decent amount of home runs. So I will lean to the over there, and I will also lean to the Mariners on the money line, but I have a stronger lean to the over in that one. But in terms of the hockey game, as I said before, I lean to the Blues plus 0.5 in regulation, but I'm not betting any of those personally. And I would also lean to the over 5 in that game, as that game should finish at 3-2 minimum. But with that being said, I don't know if there will be a tennis video later. If there is not, I'm unable to. I will still provide you with the content that you want, as I will post whatever play I have on my Twitter handle, which I posted right there in the chat section. With that being said, that's going to do for this installment of Scott Selections here for Monday, May 27th. And good luck to all of you and your respective bets, and happy Memorial Day to everyone here. Bye, everyone.